Hello, hello. Happy Sunday and welcome back to the UpSet podcast. We're so happy that you tuned in this Sunday evening, a very special Sunday evening. In fact, happy Father's Day. But we'll talk about that later. Right now, I want to bring on the rest of this amazing crew for today. It's four of us.
Hello.
Hey,
Couldn't
we're
be
here.
more.
We're here.
Hey,
You
guys.
said amazing crew for today.
It's for
Hey,
today.
you never know what combination we're going to get, right? So
Right.
welcome back, Amy. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Hey,
Good
welcome.
to be back.
Good to have you. All right, so let's just jump right into it. A lot has been going on. Where do we begin?
I'll just pick something. Of course, all the continuing war over there.
Yep.
I think we need to get used to that being around for a while.
Yeah, fortunately.
People predict that, it'll be a one and done and it's over in a few months. Mm-mm. Russia went into Afghanistan, stayed 10 years and said, okay, that's enough. We went in and stayed 20 years.
Wow.
Wow.
I didn't
So,
even think I realized.
we like long wars. So I'm just saying, poor people in Ukraine and in Russia, I'm going to have to put up with this for a while. It's unfortunate.
I thought it was going to end earlier. I really
Me too. I have to say, I'm still surprised. I'm surprised
too.
that this is still going on. I did not
Right.
anticipate that.
especially with all the help that they're getting. I thought it was going to be over by then.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the attention, that it was getting initially kind of has like waned off. So some people don't even realize if you're not paying attention, it's easy to almost think that, oh, everything's resolved or
Mhm.
not as bad as it used to be kind of thing. But
The political aspect of that will not be resolved for
sure.
a long time, unfortunately.
right. Right.
We're just hoping and praying it doesn't escalate to something nuclear.
Yeah.
Right. I think the my timeline I think is funny with the classified information in the bathrooms. I think that's that is hilarious to me. I have not gotten into all the rules or the regulations as far as classified information is concerned, but I'm sure having it in your
bathroom.
bathrooms and all of that is absolutely crazy. If you ask me, you don't have to put our opinions on it, but I don't think anything's going to happen to them anyway. I think these are all the stall tactics.
Yeah. I'm over it. I'm just kind of like every time I see a new headline, I'm just like, okay,
Yeah,
here we go again.
it's like
Great.
where we at in the green room. Amy, you was talking about tornadoes.
Oh yeah. I recently saw that a tornado hit Texas. I think it was just yesterday.
Mhm.
I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
Not yesterday, but
Thursday.
Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of crazy weather going on because I know this week in Alabama, some strong winds were coming down. My sister's there, and her electricity was off for almost 24 hours, and limbs were everywhere. It's just like
Limbs? Oh,
Yeah,
you're
tree
talking
limbs.
about
Not
tree
people
limbs.
limbs.
Tree limbs.
I was scared for a second. I was like, no.
Tree
That's a horrible
limbs.
sight to see.
Yeah, that would be. Wow, can you imagine an arm over here and an arm over there?
Yeah. That.
But I still, I still look back at our weather and look at it as signs of the second coming of Jesus Christ
and the wars. Yeah.
Yep, and the wars. Yep, it's just that we're here, and I don't want any of our viewers, any one of us, to ever look at it and just make it normal. Just don't make it normal. These are all signs for us to know that He's coming back.
And it seems like things just keep getting worse. Like, with those Canada fires, they were saying that those were the worst in years. And then for them to travel, so far
I couldn't
and affect, America like that, it was just like, that's crazy. And they said they had never, I think they said that the readings for the AQI, which is like it goes up to 500, like in New York and some of those areas,
400.
it was like in the 400s.
Wow.
Right.
dangerous for anyone to be outside.
Mhm.
Visually, it was kind of cool though. It's like looking through amber glasses. You could
Yeah,
look
I
up at
saw
the
those
sun
pictures.
Yeah, it's like a
during the middle of the
filter.
day and look right at the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Actually, I did look at. I'm sorry, I looked at AQI because I was a little bit like, "What is she talking about?" And you're right. I mean, I'm looking even back at the time, and it was very high. Now,
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, I can't imagine like being there and just being like scared to go outside or something. Like even here, like I was like, and I saw the smoke. I closed all my windows because I was
That's
like,
what
I
they
don't want to
advise.
get any kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
health
Mhm.
problem or anything,
true.
so
Mhm.
True.
that
On a
was
good note, from our world church, yesterday, Sabbath, June 17th, was the refugee. I think it was worldwide refugee recognition
Awesome.
for our church, and especially ADRA.
Yeah.
Put the focus on refugees that are not just coming into this country but other countries. I mean, there've been a number of reports of refugees just trying to get to Italy and Germany and you name it, even the United States. Many of them dying at sea,
Right.
unfortunately. But the Seventh-day Adventist Church worldwide has made June 17 that day in which we not only remember them in prayer, but if we're associated with any kind of organizations that aid refugees, the focus is there.
That's awesome. We can actually applaud.
Yep. That's good.
You
Mhm.
know, that's a good step in the right
that's nice,
direction.
yeah.
So
And ADRA is there's some amazing people. They go places where I'd be scared to death to go, but they go because it's
yes,
part
they
of their
do.
mission.
Yeah.
So we applaud
They're
them as
very
well.
committed people. Well, we know, of course, today is Father's Day, but coming up tomorrow is also a very special day of observance known
Mhm.
as Juneteenth.
Mhm.
A real
Yay.
holiday.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Juneteenth. I mean, it's something about even just saying Juneteenth that just makes me just beam. I mean, it's been a long time coming, but as we know, in 2021, Biden is instituted it as a national holiday. And for those who don't know, what is Juneteenth? It was the day that Blacks were emancipated, officially emancipated. What was the year? Oh, it escaped me how long ago it happened. But it was, and of course, Juneteenth comes from
I
June
think
and 19th being
it was
combined.
around 1865, I believe.
1865. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
it's when the
history.
Union
Okay, that's a long time.
soldiers went into Texas and said, "Y'all free."
Yeah.
But you know what? I got something to say about that. You know, I'm
Oh
going to
boy.
come from an angle, right? Before 1865, before the Union soldiers went into Texas, there had actually been freedom lawsuits, quite a few of them,
Wow.
in states where slaves were free.
Mm,
Before the Civil War, there were some states that had what they were called free states.
yep.
And there are states that still legislated that, slaves still could be property and could be owned and so forth and so on. And, I looked at one of these cases. One of them is the Dred Scott versus Sanford case. You've heard of that?
Mhm.
I just thought it was amazing that, you know, people had to go to court to either get freedom or remain free.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep.
Because some states had laws that said once free, always free,
Right.
Wow.
except if you go over a state line to a state that doesn't recognize that.
Mhm.
So Dred Scott, who was one of the more famous
Yeah.
cases, fought for years. And this was pre-Civil War now. This was
Right.
in
Yeah.
1846.
Yeah. That's what
Right.
I'm saying. And
Right.
still we weren't free.
Right.
It's like, and even today we're still fighting for certain freedoms in
Right.
certain places.
It also exposed the botched up prejudice justice system we have.
Yep.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because I heard one guy say, judges are just lawyers in robes. and they bring to those benches a lot of their prejudices. And
Truly.
when they make final decisions and final statements on cases, sometimes it's tainted with their own personal
Right.
feelings about certain cases. So, it really was a battle between free states versus non-free states, and then they had it so that the federal government could not rule on a case in a state.
Mm.
You couldn't appeal even to the federal courts because they said, well, no, that's a state issue. So I say all that to say that our people went through quite a struggle that didn't get headlines in those days because a lot of people didn't know.
Right.
We know now because
Yeah.
of the court records, but our people went through a lot of struggle to get freed legally,
Mm-hmm.
and was treated not so fair by many of the courts, and in some cases they were treated fairly. But in almost all those cases, they were always referred to as slaves or referred to as people that if they weren't white, they weren't quite human.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at some of the court documents, that language is actually in court documents.
Mm-hmm.
It's shameful to say, but
yeah, there was no shame there for them.
this was pre-Civil War now.
I know. That's why I get excited that it's a national holiday, because now when I walk in random stores or like I went to my local township the other day and it was like on the door, and ordinarily nothing would be on the township's door that was remotely related to Black history or anything. But now, since it's a national holiday,
What county? Is this Montgomery County?
Yeah.
You're in Montgomery County? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I was happy to see it. I was like, yay, it's everywhere, like you have to acknowledge it, whether you.
But Tasha, take a microphone out on the street.
I know.
And say, excuse me, sir, do you know what Juneteenth means?
Another day off.
Well, I'm glad there aren't any Juneteenth Best Buy sales. I mean, that would be shameful.
Oh my goodness. No. Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, it's still new. We'll come up with something. We'll come up with a way to commercialize this one as well.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it is Father's Day, and that's what we've come to talk about because we celebrate fathers here at the UpSet Podcast. And once again, we want to start off by saying Happy Father's Day. We like to say Happy Father's Day to our two crew members here, Pat and Charles.
Happy Father's Day.
Oh, the classic.
That's nice.
The time.
Creative.
Yeah, and happy Father's Day to all of our fathers who are listening. We salute you today. I always feel bad when people say fathers get the short end of the stick, but not in my book. I hold fathers in very high esteem, and I guess a lot of it has to do with my own father. And so shout out to my dad, Fred Betts. Thanks for being an awesome father. Shout out to my husband, Andre Hewitt. Thanks for being an awesome father. And to all the other awesome fathers out there, we say Happy Father's Day. But, we like to talk about the history of a lot of these holidays that we celebrate, just because sometimes we celebrate them, but we don't really know the origins or how it even came about. And so, when I was looking at Father's Day, one of the things that surprised me the most about the history is that it really wasn't that long ago that it became a national holiday. Which was interesting to me because a lot of times when you're born into something, you think it's been there for years. And that was not the case with Father's Day. As a matter of fact, the credit for Father's Day does date back several decades ago, but it was actually a woman named Sonora Smart Dodd. She's from Spokane, Washington, and her father died in the Civil War. He was a Civil War veteran, and he had raised her and her 5 siblings after their mother had died in childbirth. So he was like super father. He was doing all this stuff and raising 6 children. And when she was listening to a sermon, this is in 1909, she was listening to a sermon on Mother's Day, which was at that time starting to become a holiday, she was like, hey, fathers deserve some recognition as well. And so she reached out to the religious leaders in her area, just locally there in Spokane, Washington. They thought, hey, this sounds like a good idea. We support you. So how about we use the month of her father's birthday, which was June. His birthday was June. This was June 19th, they decided. And in 1910, that's when the first observance of any kind of Father's Day took place. Now, of course, this was local. But in 1924, President Calvin Coolidge, he gave his support to this observance. And all the way back in 1966. So there's a lot of time in between these acknowledgments. In 1966, President Lyndon B. Johnson issued a proclamation that recognized the day, but it actually didn't become a national holiday until 1972. See, that wasn't that long ago. President Nixon actually signed the legislation designating the third Sunday of June as Father's Day. So the interesting thing about that, because some people say, why June? And it's because that was the birth month of the woman who came up with this idea. And you see how it started in this small, like, religious group. I mean, a lot of the holidays do start that way, holy days. But much like any other holiday, it's now become a little bit more commercialized and, how can we get people to buy, how that goes. But this is something that I don't know if I knew. But they were saying that, aside from like the greeting cards and the gifts and stuff, some people observe this custom, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this, of wearing a red rose on Father's Day to indicate if your father's living, and a white rose to indicate that your father's deceased.
I didn't actually know that.
I didn't know that was done.
I think that is a good thing to adopt, though. I like that idea.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I know sometimes in our churches, like Mother's Day, they give out the roses and the corsages and stuff. I was like, that would be interesting if they were to do something like that.
I think Charles is going to look at that as some type of way for the industry of flowers to make more money.
Well, we always find a way.
I mean, look, I'm not that hard on capitalism, but
he's like, I'll take a rose,
Yeah. Well, I mean, industries capitalize on holidays anyway. I mean, that's just part of America,
Yeah, that's what we do.
But I think it would be nice to know, fathers who are still around and fathers who are not. I think it would make us more sympathetic to how we approach each other, even in our greeting to each other on that day.
Right. I was thinking that.
It reminds me of when, even now, I've learned so much about Memorial Day, what to say and what not to say. That people see you in the grocery stores and Happy Father's Day. I didn't know you were a father.
Crossing our fingers.
Maybe there was some kind of special handshake.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's that look. There's that line. There's a line you guys have in your forehead that indicates you had to bury it a little bit.
I think people just try to cover their bases. They just you're a guy. You're old. Well, not old, but you're
of childbearing
age.
Yes, I'm childbearing age.
They see my hair and they say Happy Father's Day, and I'll say, I don't have any kids. What are you talking about?
Happy Father's Day. I got Happy Mother's Day, and I'm not a mother, So I mean, I guess this is like people, I'm an aunt, but I'm not a mother. And my sisters was like, Happy Mother's Day, and I was like, okay.
You might be trying to tell you something, Amy.
Today without being a father and without being a mother, you can still celebrate the day.
Yeah,
that is true. And I do have a mother, so I mean,
yeah.
But the other thing too, and I have to say, this stuck out to me as a diehard English major, is the spelling of Father's Day. Because sometimes,
really,
when you have certain rules regarding commas and possessive things, people get a little confused because we're celebrating multiple fathers on Father's Day. So you think the apostrophe is supposed to, I said commas, but apostrophe is supposed to go outside the S because you're celebrating multiple fathers on the day. But actually, it's stated very clearly that it's intended to be father apostrophe S. So there's no need to deviate from that. And it actually came from Mother's Day because the person who instituted Mother's Day made it very clear that they wanted Mother's Day to be spelled that way. And so therefore Father's Day. So if you get confused about should I put the apostrophe between the R and S, if you don't care, but for people like me who are writing and should it go here, should it not? That's the official answer.
But it also makes it personal though.
Yeah.
Oh, if it's after the S, then you're just gonna figure out, hey, this is all of our day.
Yeah.
No, let's make it personal. I want it to be about my day. So father apostrophe S. Let's go.
Yeah. So it's nice to want to include everybody, but officially that's how it should be spelled. All right. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, we know how we celebrate it in the United States, and we just talked about the history of how it came here. But we wanted to look at some other regions, to say, because even with all the holidays, we always ask, wait, do they celebrate that over there? Or, or how do they do it? And so we decided we wanted to look that up a little bit. So, what stuck out for you guys in some of the areas that you looked at in terms of some of the differences or similarities with other regions of this world?
I don't want to act like I'm some world traveler. I've been to a couple of places, but what I do notice they say is when the United States coughs or sneeze, however they say it, we catch a cold or whatever it might be. And when I look at it from the South America side, Latin side, you're right. There's a lot that comes out of religion. So most of the countries there celebrate notable characters during that day. In notable fathers, which most come out to be Catholic priests or whoever was the founder of that city, etc. So you're going to find a whole lot coming out of there, because father to them is a godship. I wouldn't say to them, but in their culture, father is a godship. Father is a religious advisor, spiritual leader. So you're going to find more of our South American pointing towards their faith. Yeah.
Now, do they? I know it varies. Some celebrate it in June, like we do.
Yeah, actually, they do. So, they started off in March, around March area, March 18th, March 19th area. But everyone they're in June. They're in June right now. So I don't know how long ago it moved to June, but I guess commercial reasons, Chuck, capitalism, Chuck, whatever it might be, everybody's celebrating in June. So it's more from a religious standpoint when it comes to South America.
It's interesting, in Thailand, it's actually in December.
Yeah.
December 5.
You see that.
Let me share a little funny bit. For this is part of the Asian installment to this topic. In Nepal, this is so funny. Okay, hold on to your seats. Nepal's version of Father's Day is called Gokarna Ansi, which translates to cow earned no moon night. All right.
Can you break that down?
Yeah,
cow. Like a cow, earned no moon night.
He earned no moon night.
Okay. And it says this day is usually spent by offering prayers to their Shiva, in the Shiva shrine, which is part of the religion, in the Gokarna temple. Eating and gift giving is part of that day. Now, here's the thing that just got me. It said, moreover, there's ceremony in which boys put their heads to the father's feet, while girls put their heads in their father's hand.
Wow. Feet and then hand.
Mhm.
That's the way they honor.
Interesting.
Yeah, honor their fathers, right? The boys put their, their head to their father's feet and the girls to the father's hand.
I don't know
Hmm.
why I feel like if Tally was here, he would find some tie.
Oh, he didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what that could mean.
Yeah.
Like, I'll follow in your footsteps, like as a son, like, and as the
Mhm.
daughter, I will.
Hands maybe carrying or something.
Yeah,
Or
I receive.
Mhm.
oh,
Mhm.
receive. That's good. Receive
Yeah.
sounds good.
Ah, very
We
interesting.
should do that here. Yeah. Can you see
Can you
guys
do that?
like leading down to
Yeah,
the
yeah. What's up, Dad? Yeah.
The fist bump, Dad. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though, like even looking at some of the African traditions, the continent of Africa, the different countries within it celebrate it differently. Like for instance, in Egypt, they celebrate it on the 21st of June every year. So you know how we do the third Sunday.
Right.
For them, it's the 21st of June. So that could fall at any day on the calendar, but that's when they observe it. However, Kenya, they observe it on the third Sunday of June, just like we do, but it's not a public holiday. So they observe it, but it's not official. And then you have places like Mozambique, which I like saying that. I hope I said it right, where they observe it on the 19th of March. So it's like it's interesting how each country kind of decides if we're gonna celebrate it, and this is when we choose to celebrate it. And then in South Sudan, it's celebrated the last Monday of August.
Mhm.
And so it's like all over the place when you're looking at places like Africa in terms of how they observe it. But a lot of them I'm noticing they observe it, but it's still not an official or public holiday. So it's interesting.
Yeah, when you guys brought up the 19th of March, I realized, or I found out that in Spain and Portugal, Italy and Croatia, they observe Father's Day on that day because it is the feast day of Saint Joseph.
Mhm.
So, it all comes back to that whole religious thing,
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
being and I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
And another thing too, this one stuck out to me the most about European traditions, and it was Germany. And apparently in Germany, Father's Day is celebrated on Ascension Day,
Mhm.
the Thursday 40 days after Easter, which
Oh,
is
wow.
a federal holiday.
Mm.
And regionally, it is also called Gentleman's Day.
Mm-mm.
Um, and the tradition is for a group of males, young and old, excluding preteen, teenage boys,
Mhm.
to go on a hiking tour with one or more smaller wagons pulled by manpower, and then they in the wagons are like wine and beer and
Mm.
like regional food. And they
Mhm.
said that a lot of times men use this holiday as an opportunity to get drunk.
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna say
let's go
that.
back to our men's health episode.
Yeah, hold on a
At the
second. Let me,
end of
let's call
Father's
it.
Day, you gotta slobs,
Yeah, let me call it
right
Tally.
down.
Find out where Tally really is. He's probably drunk somewhere.
Yeah, I
But
thought
that's
that
funny
was
though.
interesting.
It's good. That's good.
It's interesting what you were sharing, Amy, because I mean, there seems like two extremes there because there's the religious side of it where it doesn't seem like the focus is even on individual fathers. Like,
Mhm.
it's more so on the Heavenly Father or, recognizing, like you're saying, notable people. And then there's the other extreme of let's get the boys together and pull up a wagon with, so it's just, it's funny how it's kind of
Sounds like
left up to
tailgating.
interpretation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Left up to
And-
interpretation of the area.
And in Netherlands, they treat Father's Day much like Mother's Day. So the fathers get their breakfast in bed by their children, and their families gather together and they have like dinner, usually at like a grandparent's house or something. And so I found that interesting because I was like, I'm almost certain that we don't really treat Father's Day as we treat Mother's Day here.
We do in our household. No,
Well, some people do, I guess, but I feel like it's not as big as Mother's Day, you know, and for them to like recognize that it is as big as Mother's Day, like both need to be recognized. I thought that was pretty interesting in the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's part of their culture. And
Yeah.
you know, I hear that people talk about this, and I want us to spend a couple of minutes talking about it, dispelling this myth. Because I feel like Father's Day kind of got downplayed, not because women didn't want to acknowledge fathers, but I feel like guys were like, you know, that fuss. You know what I mean? Sometimes women were so like sentimental and you know, yes, celebrate. Men are like, come on, can you calm all that down? Just, you know, I just want to watch the game, or you know, so is it who made Father's Day that way? Was it us as women, or was it the fathers? Like, help me out here. What do you guys think?
I think it really does depend on your culture and your family relations. You know, there's some family relations that are very low key, you know,
Right.
low profile. Father's Day, you get a text here and there, you know. You know, maybe you get a little gift, maybe not, you know, and it's no, I think as fathers, and I can't speak for all fathers, but I think fathers, just like you said, Tasha, they just don't make a big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal. Okay, it's Father's Day. Thank you very much.
Right.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on the culture. There are some families that make it a big deal.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
the dinner and the gifts and all that. And there are some cultures that are just very celebratory.
Anything.
They go out. Like I was reading about Thailand, which I thought was interesting. Father's Day is celebrated in December, December 5th. And it was the birthday of the late king, who was considered a remarkable ruler. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, okay? Look it up. Who was considered a remarkable ruler as well as the father of the nation. And traditions include, Pat, wearing bright yellow shirts.
Wow.
The color represents Monday in their country.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yellow. Yeah.
Oh.
And it was also the day in which the king was born. So fathers and grandfathers are also given flowers as a gift.
Flowers.
Don't sleep on flowers.
Would you guys like flower? Would you guys
Yeah.
like flowers for Father's Day?
You know, I can't even answer that question because I don't ever remember receiving flowers, ever. on Father's Day.
Interesting.
So I don't know how I wouldn't reject it. But I don't know, Pat, what do you get flowers?
No, not at all.
Men like that's another myth I want to dispel.
Maybe
Men like flowers.
I didn't say I didn't like flowers. I just never got it for Father's
But
Day.
a lot of times women tell themselves, men don't want flowers. That's for women. They don't get them, but you'd be surprised.
No. Yeah, I just
It's
haven't.
not too late,
received
guys. Go
flowers.
out and get your father flowers if you haven't already.
I would give flowers. I would.
I think they're pretty.
You what?
My dad won't.
Well, some guys,
Some.
we're into this masculine thing. You know, you give a guy flowers and he puts it in the cup holder of his pickup. You know?
Yeah, you gotta put it in a vase for them because if not, it'll be dead. But
We'd be like, "Oh, this is good." Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I do think, you know, even though a lot of men don't want to make a big fuss over things like that, I found that they're sometimes surprised by how nice they feel or excited they feel when things are done for them. And so, because sometimes I fell into that trying to just, you know, I know my husband or I know my dad. They don't really. But then I said, you know what? I'm going to do something different. And it's like, wow, they actually like that. And they surprised themselves that they liked, you know, whatever it was, whether it was an activity or, you know, going all out for a gift. And so I feel like whatever you feel impressed to do. And we were talking about this. I guess we're going to talk about some of the types of gifts. And it varies. You know, there are all kinds of lists out there, you know, what to get your father for Father's Day. But I really think it boils down to knowing the men in your life, knowing them. and listening all year, like picking up on things they may
And all
need,
year.
they may like,
Yeah.
because it doesn't always happen around Father's Day. And you're like, oh, what can I get? I like try to make mental notes throughout the year, like, oh, they like that. Oh, they need that.
Oh, that's good.
Pull it
I
out.
remember watching the Cosby Show. They had like an episode on Father's Day or something, and I remember Bill, he was talking to his wife about the fact that he doesn't get great gifts on Father's Day, but she does because
Mhm.
she makes a whole fuss about it, and she's like, I birthed you. I mean, I had you for 9 months
Right.
and all that, and
I
I
earned this.
pushed you out and all that. And he's like, but I don't say anything, and I just get these really lousy presents. And then so it was like 2 weeks before Christmas, and he told his kids, I want better gifts. So go out and get me better gifts.
Really?
And they went searching for gifts, and they really tried. They were still not great, but they tried better. And I found that it was really
Yeah, so they
funny.
have to speak up. In other words, fathers, if you're not getting the gifts you
Yeah.
want or it's not being acknowledged the way you see fit, let them know. I do want something. It's
Right.
okay.
And you should see the gifts he had. He had like a light up
Sweater.
no, a light up tie,
Hi.
a
Oh, I
light
remember
up
those.
hat.
A light up
Like it was
tie?
like a whole bunch of like lit up things.
Okay.
It was
Very
like
gaudy
I
type
guess
stuff.
he's
people
like,
have
I
been
would
Travis
never
cool with
wear
that.
these. But he keeps them because his kids gives it to them
Yeah.
to him. And I was like, oh. And I find that I know with my dad, like I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't really have any money, so what I could get him was like, I guess like ties and stuff, little ties. I didn't know what he would want, like that was like cheap gift type things that I could think of, and when I could actually like get something with my lunch money, you know,
Mm.
and but he wouldn't wear them, so he would just like leave the stuff like in the box. Like we would get him ties or cologne or something, you know,
Mm.
and he would just leave them in the box, and we would never like see him use it. So after a while, it
Yeah,
got to
you
the point where you didn't
condition
want
it.
to give anything
Right.
because
You're like, what's the point? He's not gonna wear it. He's not gonna
like you're
use
not
it.
accepting any of my gifts. So I mean, I don't know. It was kind of like that for me growing up.
I'm glad you mentioned growing up because one of the things I appreciated growing up as a kid is that in school, you used to make some of the coolest Father's Day gifts.
Yeah, the
Like you didn't have to
cards.
spend any money. The teachers provided all the materials and it was
No, those are on
heartfelt.
the days when they didn't have lesson plans.
They're right.
Yeah, because I was like, do the people still
All right,
do
boys and girls.
that
We're
anymore?
going to All right, boys and girls, we're going to cut out Father's Day gifts all day.
Yep, I remember that. Well, it was fun, but it was so I remember those kind of being the most memorable gifts for my dad because like they would give you this little template. I love my dad because, and then you have to fill in or my dad is the best, whatever. And so it became very personalized and free. I mean, I feel like,
Construction paper
yes.
and glue
Yes.
and what do you call it? Popsicle sticks.
Right.
And
I
I'm sure
remember-
they still do that today.
I don't know. None of my kids are in school to do that.
I
But,
was gonna say,
but
I don't know. I don't know if they do it as much in our schools. At least my kids attended, but I don't know what they do.
I used to make things for my dad. So I used to. I
Actually,
remember
that
making.
probably gets more attention.
I made it. I remember one time making a helicopter for him out of I don't know something that broke. And one thing that I remembered is that he always kept it on top of his dresser.
Mm.
Years he kept it on top of his dresser. I
Mhm.
think I found it when they moved from New York to Maryland. But my dad, when we got together to see what we were going to get for my father, we tried to get him things like slippers that he never wore.
Like functional stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pajamas that he never wore. So we just probably give him a life supply of Depends this year.
Oh, you know what?
Are you?
He has no chance.
I'm afraid you're serious, Pat. Are
No,
you serious?
not depends.
Oh.
He ain't there yet.
You wear
Does-
these,
does-
right?
Does your father watch the show?
Sometimes
Uh-oh,
Let's-
it
let's hope
depends.
he doesn't watch
Trouble.
this this night.
she said it depends. I mean, in my house, my daughter's gifts are more thought out.
Mm.
I think after a certain time, my wife didn't plan with them anymore. They are the ones that decide, okay, this is what we want to get. So because I'm into music and all of that, they would do something like a gift certificate towards a subscription program. You know what I mean? A subscription thing online, or because they probably heard me talk about it, or because it's on my wall, some of the things that I want, they're like, okay, I think he's putting it on there because of what he wants. But my daughter would get me something like T-shirts that mean something to me, or she would literally buy something 3 months ago and put it up and wait. That's her type. That's whatever. Joseph, I'm dying to see what he's gonna do. Anything can happen, but we don't really go out. We don't really go out to eat or any of those. Those are reserved for Mother's Day. Those are reserved for.
But you would like that, though. I mean, I'm not trying to put an indictment on you. I'm just saying you wouldn't mind going out, right?
No,
'Cause I think
No,
sometimes
not
we-
at all.
I wouldn't.
Okay, that's what I
I mean,
thought.
I wouldn't mind.
I can remember a Father's Day or two where I was, taken out, for dinner, that sort of thing. But let me. A colleague here in the office gave me this, as I showed you this earlier, and it has sayings inside. I
Okay.
just want to give a shout out to Jacqueline O'Brien for this.
Okay.
That's
I have
Jack
to give
Jack.
her
Oh,
credit.
that's Jack Jack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have to
that's
give her
so
credit for
funny.
this. But inside was some of the most popular. I don't know if you can see that. Most popular sayings. for dads.
Oh,
And I checked off 3 of them that I thought.
okay.
were
Let's hear
really
it.
meaningful.
Go ahead.
Any man can be a father, but it takes someone special to be a dad.
Mm.
I thought that was pretty
Mhm.
powerful.
That was.
Another one is a father is a banker provided by nature.
That is for sure.
For
Yeah.
sure. I figured
Fund
you'd
it.
say.
Yeah.
A father carries pictures where his money used to be.
No.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And
That
there are a
ties
few
into
others
the
that
other
are,
one.
that are,
Yeah.
that are pretty meaningful.
Just give us
But,
one more.
I also
Just
want to
give us one more just for the road. I know you got 3. Just give us the
One
one.
more.
One.
Oh, yeah. Fathers just have a way of putting everything together.
Wow.
Mm.
That's good.
But I want to give a shout out to those dads who are not the father of their children.
Yes.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There are many family situations where the male of the family may not have fathered the children, but they have been the dad all that child's life.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
There are also dads that are incarcerated,
Yeah.
who have missed their kids. We want to give a shout out to them as well.
Mhm.
We forget when people are incarcerated, we forget that they're still human beings and they're
Right.
somebody's son, somebody's father, somebody's uncle,
Yeah. Absolutely.
father, and we should not forget them. But yeah, I know there are a lot of. I'm sure a lot of situations. Even in our churches where the male so-called head of the family is not necessarily the male who fathered the children, but in some instances, that's the only father those children know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Charles, because, during Mother's Day, we were talking about the different types of mothers. And I think the same thing applies to fathers. There are different types of men who kind of take on that dad role and, making that distinction between may not have
Mhm.
biologically birthed you as father, but
Right.
I can be a dad figure in that, I treat you, I'm providing guidance and support and, whatever you need as a male figure in a child's life. And so we do want to salute all of them
A lot of
fathers.
uncles step up to the plate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
for their families
Right.
and you know, I saw this meme. I'm sorry, man. Sometimes I saw this meme. Whatever, I'll explain it through. They were like, "I will block you if mothers come on to say that they that they were
They were the
that they,
fathers. Yeah,
they were
I
fathers."
agree with that. I don't think even if it's single moms,
Sure.
you know, you I applaud single moms,
Yes,
but
definitely.
you're not a father. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I get the saying that I've had to fulfill both
Both
roles. I
roles,
get
right?
that. I do
Right.
it so much respect.
Right.
But a father,
It's funny. They was like, "I'm gonna block you. I'm gonna block you if you if
Mhm.
you say that."
yeah, I agree.
It's a wonderful. I don't know, Chuck, if you could remember, or I mean, I'm not even saying it for age wise, but some things we decide to block out. But the
Mhm.
birth of your children,
Mm.
Mhm.
um, is I think that's one of the most
I'll tell you.
ex- it,
It's like rolling back film. I remember the birth of each one of my
Wow.
sons. Circumstances, hospital, what happened,
yep,
everything.
Wow.
yep.
You just
Yep.
push a button and it just rolls back, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and sometimes you know God gives you the opportunity to remember some things that you didn't even remember while and you know not even just the birth of it, but of the child, but even the process, the
Mhm.
pregnancy.
Mhm.
You know, you go through and you try to sing around them, you try to talk to them, you do all of these type of things. I think God has given us the opportunity to mothers too, but it's Father's Day, right?
Yeah,
Um,
good.
for, for us to understand who He is, you
Mhm.
know, in the creation and procreation process, to know, listen, if I can make this out of nothing, and I'm giving you the opportunity of
Right.
understanding what it's like to
Mhm.
participate in birthing,
Mhm.
I take fatherhood very seriously. I just take it, you know, as a gift of God to be
Mhm.
able to understand at least close by where He is on the throne. Amy was
Mhm.
saying this. I think we were saying this earlier, especially for our Latin communities or South American communities. They look at it as a spiritual thing. Fathers as being spiritual, and I think one of the things that we should do as fathers is to bring our households back to the love of God, bring our
Mhm.
households back to knowing who He is. I mean, what is the ultimate thing of fatherhood to me
Mhm.
in a Christian background is for us to be able to reconnect our families back to
Mhm.
Christ.
Mm.
I think
That's deep there.
that is important. That is
It's very
Yeah.
important.
important.
Yeah,
Right.
that's deep, man.
And one
I'm
of the best ways to do that is by example.
You know, you know, Chuck, you know, and we could say this here on this Father's Day. I missed a lot of Father's Day because of camp meeting,
Mm.
camp,
Mhm.
work. Um,
Right. Right.
and so my Father's days were like afterwards, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And so it's almost like being able to get to a place of saying, I don't care how old my children are, I don't care how old we are, we can still
Mhm.
connect, you know, get
yeah,
back
Right.
together.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Right. So
So
really, Father's Day could be every day.
yeah.
Uh, any day
Any
that you
day.
can connect
Yeah.
with your family. I think it's the same for mothers too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
on Mother's Day, you can, you're always going to be mom, you're always going to be the mother. And so we should cherish that. One other thing I wanted to insert here on Father's Day is I think that fathers owe it to their male children and males in their community to teach and exhibit what a good father is.
Yep.
Amen.
There are a lot of our communities, especially in our urban communities, our lower income communities where housing is marginal,
Sure.
food deserts, and things like that. People are struggling just to live.
Mhm.
And many households don't have fathers. So I just think we, we need to also take an opportunity to think about and pray about those situations where there are no fathers. And if you look back at the history of gang warfare and a lot of stuff that was happening in the community, many of that was attributed to the lack of a father in the home guiding and being an example.
Yeah. You know, that's one of the reasons a lot of people seek churches that have men, a strong male presence, positive male
Yes.
presence. I've run into several, particularly single moms, especially if they have boys, that attend a church because they want their children to see men who are handling business, taking care, great role models who will take them under their wings, who will lead them and guide them. I mean, my husband talks all the time about the men that were in the church when he grew up. His parents were divorced, so his mom was a single mom at the time, and the men of the church took he and his brother and even his sisters under their wing, taught them things, helped them get through breakups with girls, and help them, learn to develop sports and stuff. And these are men that he still respects to this day. And I think, we always try to tie a lot of things to the church. I think I want to give a shout out to all of those men in our churches who are fulfilling that role, even if they're not doing it consciously, but you're fulfilling that role for so many young men, and keep it going because they need it. They really do.
Yeah, and I agree.
I'm sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I agree with that because I also had a similar experience where even though my father was there, he wasn't always present, and so I had other male figures in the church who kind of took me in as as a daughter because they didn't have daughters, and so I still felt that father's love from them, even though my dad was not always around. And then when my dad did pass away, in 2013, I still had that, like it was just you know and even today, like I can always like reach out and just like say, hey, like how you doing, or they'll reach out to me and stuff. And so so I do want to give a shout out as well to
Strong point.
yeah, like all the male figures that I had growing up, because I think a girl really needs her father just as much as a son needs his dad.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
That's true.
That made that's a good segue into the question I was going to ask just before you started speaking, Amy. And I was going to kind of address this to Patrick because he has both. Now, a father to a son is not necessarily a father to a daughter. And what could possibly be the difference? Now, I don't, I've not had the privilege of having a daughter. After 3 boys, I said, okay, that's it. I got it. I'm not going to keep trying. But I got, try it for a daughter, try it for it. No, it just wasn't happening. So I ended up with the proverbial my 3 sons, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But, I think about that if I did have a daughter, how much different would I treat her? And I have some beautiful granddaughters. Yeah. And so they get the daughter treatment.
It's the same, buddy. It's the same.
Yeah. So, if your daughter approaches you, Patrick, with an issue or a request, and your son comes to you with an issue or a request, is your response the same?
Absolutely not.
And they all know it.
Absolutely not. I remember when I didn't want to know what the last baby was going to be, male, female. And, they kept saying, well, do you want to know? No, I don't want to know. My life totally changed. No, it was a girl. That was it. And and I made some mistakes, even disciplining, because I didn't want to discipline her the same way that I disciplined the boys or anything like that. But they know how to use fathers. They know how to use each other.
Oh yeah.
Both of them, my daughter and my sons know how to get at me to whatever it is that they want. So it's like, hey, get dad to do this. So most of the times, Jasmine can, Jasmine just said the other day that I'm ready to come home. I was like, when you say home, what do you mean? She's like, I'm ready to come home. She lived in Florida, and she gave me the date.
And that's it.
And that was it.
I went one day, packed her stuff, turned around, came right back, and honestly, Chuck, it's different all the way through. My sons can have issues, and we could discuss their issues. My daughter can have an issue. I'll solve it for you. I'll solve it for you.
Yeah. And tell the son, man up.
Yep. Man up, guys. Man up.
Call me if you need something, but go ahead and take care of business, right?
But yeah. It's a different feel altogether. I love them. I love them. That's all. I can't. If I qualify it, I'm going to get in trouble either way.
Right.
But what I love out of fatherhood for each of my children are different. One with autism, which thank you, God, for allowing me to have a child with autism, so I know what normal really looks like. My middle son, my oldest son, that's the bank. I'm his banker, Chuck. My daughter, she's never going to ask me for something that she can get on her own. Never going to do something like that. But she have replaced my dog here in the house, and that's a big deal.
That's endearing. I know. It's just
it sounds funny, but no, when I come through the door over the past couple of weeks that she's been home,
like a wagging tail, right?
Forget the dog. The dog is like,
yeah.
And so it's a different feel. But I do want to give a shout out to even those of us who had fathers, who the men were fathers around us also. Because no matter what happens, even in church life, I can't give my children couldn't give my sons and my daughter everything. I just couldn't. There's no way. I had guys like out of my church, Sharon Church, a guy named Leonard Diggs, who was always calling my sons, and keeping up with them and mentoring them. And I remember how I felt. I was like, I'm their father, but that's what they needed. They needed other.
Everyone has blind spots sometimes, and other people can,
Oh, yes. And it's no different. I'm sorry. I don't want to put it this way. It's no different from someone who didn't have a father. You understand what I'm saying? The need. Those men met the need, no matter what it is. You have a need, whether you're married and have children, two family household, or if it's a single household, the needs are still there. And so I like to thank those who stepped up to the plate for me. When I think about Pastor Brissett, Pastor Wesley, all those fathers, those pastors who are with us now, their fathers were fathers to me. So real fathers to me. So I thank God for it, and I thank guys for this opportunity, because I never really take the time to sit down and think about it.
Right.
We have to be sitting here thinking about it. I'm saying, wow, Orville's father was at my graduation. You know what I mean? They all were there. So I thank God for all of that, and I thank God to be living so that I can have the chance to be a better father even now.
It goes to show that even like you have to set an example for everyone, not just your own children.
Wow.
So like keeping that,
it's a village mindset. It takes a village. We're all part of the village, playing a role.
And just as a side note, having to deal with male figures, this is the time for all you male educators out there to start filling out some applications.
I was going to mention that. We
need more males in the classroom. Really do. I can tell you the difference. When I was coming up in high school, I had an English teacher, and she was kind of dippy. The kids ran over or what have you. But when we had our gym teachers, our men, they were all buffed and talk like this, hey, you go over there.
That's right.
Boy, we were like,
That's that Philly, New York. What? What?
Right, right.
You say that, Chuck, right now. I was looking at Facebook and I see my coach. His name is Rick Marcelino. And I had another teacher in the academy named, we call him Pastor Clark. He was our Bible teacher. Mm-hmm. I remember staying over their houses during some difficult times. I remember they're the one of them was the ones that brought me to get my driver's license. These are the things you don't forget, you know, in life. Matter of fact, his power steering went out the day I was to get my driver's license. And man, you know how you had to do the 3-point. I don't know how they do it. You had to do the 3-point and this, that, and the other. When we parked back, you know, he came in, he was like, did he pass? He's talking to the person. He said, could you step away, please? The person looked at me and said, if you could drive this, you could drive anything.
More than that.
Yeah, you not only deserve a license, you deserve an award. Yeah.
I thank God for them too. I thank God for them.
Man.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, you know, this has been a great discussion about Father's Day. I hope the men listening, the fathers listening, understand how valuable you are to all of us. I think we've all kind of shared people that have impacted us because of the leadership.
Especially the Heavenly Father.
Yes.
Go ahead. Hold on. Amy, you got a sermon, Amy?
You're right.
That's the most important one.
That's
yeah.
right.
And I was thinking about that when Charles was saying earlier, how, you know, we have that example of the Heavenly Father, which, you know, because a lot of guys are like, oh, I don't know how to be a father. I didn't have a father. I never saw it pattern for me. And I thought about the example that the Heavenly Father said, like when you really study the word and you look at the Heavenly Father's role, a lot of it mirrors what an earthly father does in terms of, you know, overseeing, making sure your children are okay and standing in the gap and, you know, providing advocacy. And I mean, it's just so, I think as we look at Father's Day, like you said, Amy, first, let's look at our Heavenly Father. And then secondly, let's appreciate the earthly fathers, those we have around us, because they definitely are a direct reflection of our Heavenly Father. So,
right. And for all you fathers that are receiving clothing that you wouldn't be caught dead in, there are these clothing drops, you know, in various neighborhoods.
That would be
you could just like, you know, you can leave the house and say, I'll be right back. I'm going to get a loaf of bread.
Somebody should start a group, though. Somebody should start a group where they just post, because you know what one father may like, another may not. You know, they like
might have a trade going on. Trade.
Yeah.
Might trade.
But whatever you do, Amy taught us, whatever you do, fathers, don't have some type of response, whether you like it or not, because if you don't, eventually you may get nothing.
At least.
Thank you. I needed a sharpener.
Exactly what I didn't want.
That would be better than, you know, just putting it to the side and collecting dust.
You know what happens, you know, Pat, if we do that enough, right, we start getting gag gifts. Right?
Like you liked it last year. I'm sure he'll like this.
Or, you know, you start making your list like Christmas, and then you get what you want.
Drop those hints early. Don't wait.
Fishing pole, whatever. Whatever it is.
Fishing pole, cologne.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, my kids buy me cologne. They use it.
Kids have a way of buying their parents gifts.
If they buy you Brute, right? Yeah, they will. That's the gag gift, right?
The group one.
Brute.
Years ago, I remember getting Brute, and I put it on one time with the church. This was years ago, and people knew what that smelled like.
Chuck, it's like Gina Tate, Chuck. It's like Gina Tate. For ladies.
With you in Sabbath school, and suddenly there's plenty of room on that pew. Everybody's like,
Brute the Sabbath.
I think I'll sit up front.
Oh, mercy.
I don't think we actually said what were some good gifts that they could get. Did we?
Okay, yeah. Before we go, we got to at least throw a couple ideas out there. The night's still young. Stores are still open. So
Brute.
It's not too late.
by Fabergé.
Not brute, but what is a
High
common
karate?
gift that fathers like?
Oh, is it blank?
A vintage 56
Pontiac.
That you don't have to research on eBay for 2 years.
Cobra.
Cobra.
Yeah,
You know
56
what?
Cobra would be
Something that's useful. I
Mhm.
think something that's useful, even if it's a cup with a writing on it that says the UpSet podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's a good segue, but
Yeah.
Good one.
No, I think
Yeah.
like I appreciate gifts. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it was thought out what it is. You know what I
Mhm.
even like? I like cards that make sense. You know what I mean? Not just
Mm.
Happy Father's Day, but a card.
Right.
Dad, thank you for
Related to
this, that,
you.
and the other.
Yeah.
Or
You like the really
Yeah.
syrupy cards?
Chuck,
Like Hallmark syrupy,
yes,
3
I
pages.
can't. I'm gonna say yes, and we can
Flowery.
move on to the next thing.
Oh,
But I'm super sentimental towards things like that. I have all my kids' cards. I have everything that I was gonna bring it out, and I said nah, because I'm gonna start crying.
so what we're saying is every guy is different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
find something
Know your
meaningful
dad. Yeah.
that represents them, and
Right.
hopefully that
And
will
please
be a
put
good
in the
gift.
comments, those of you that want to share your thoughts and experiences about
Yeah. We want to know.
your
So many
father,
fathers.
and even some gift ideas, either something that you already bought or something you wish you didn't buy and wanting you save the receipt so you can
Right.
take it back.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, put some in there for ideas for next year for the fathers. Put it out there. There's your chance. We can read the comments and get some ideas. So thank
One
you.
of the best places for last minute, like I forgot to get a gift, is Walgreens.
Walgreens. No, really.
CVS.
Those pharmacy store, they have some good stuff
They
in there.
do. They have some great cards and stuff. Like,
Yeah, even little
I love
trinkets.
their cards
Yeah.
and little gift baskets and stuff.
Yes, I can hear car doors closing right now.
Yep.
And they stay open late. You're right. They stay open late. So
Mhm.
go ahead, try it out. That was a great tip, Charles. Great tip.
Last minute
Wow.
shopping.
Wow.
Now, someone had mentioned this, which was a good segue. If you want to give your father an IOU and you're going to get him some UpSet podcast,
Merch.
we're here to help.
Yeah. Well, for some fathers, that might be very upsetting.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't watch the podcast.
Right.
No, but I didn't mean to put the address. I meant to put where you can get your UpSet gear. I wanted to make sure we all knew that since we have camp meeting coming up the weekend, June 30th, July 1st, we now have an option in the store where you can prepay and pick up whatever you want from the UpSet store right on the grounds. We'll have it set up. You'll see somebody affiliated with the UpSet podcast ready to give you your package, and you can avoid paying shipping, So check it out. Place your orders today. Once again, we want to say thank you to everyone who has purchased so far. We were able to turn in funds. Last week I put out a plea that if anybody wanted to contribute or match what we were donating, we had someone do that. And so our initial donation, which was going to be $400 to Nathaniel at Pine Forge Academy, has now grown to over $600.
That's amazing.
And so we're happy that on behalf of the UpSet podcast that we are going to be able to put this money on a young man's account, Pine Forge Academy, and support his family's dream of him going there. And so that's what this is all about, guys. Like, honestly, we don't see the money. This is about helping others. And so we appreciate you partnering with us to do that. And we look forward to the next family or next situation that we can bless. And we hope that you'll continue to share those with us. You can email someone or some situation you think could benefit from an UpSet. We call it an UpSet podcast grant or gift. Email us so we can have that ready for the next one. Okay.
And I just wanted to add in here too, just to pray for Marlena today.
Yes.
Even she's in the Philippines, always preaching somewhere.
Mhm.
And Tally just coming back from preaching for a couple of places.
He's on camp meeting tour.
And GP is being daddy today.
I was going to say, we wanted to shout out our other UpSet fathers, GP and Tally.
Yeah.
We hope that you are enjoying your special day as well.
Both have daughters.
Yeah.
Yep. They both have, a
Yeah.
daughter, as a matter of
Which
fact.
means they have a gun permit. Yeah. I didn't say they have a gun, just a permit.
Permit.
Just a
Mhm.
permit.
Should it be necessary? I got you. All right. Anyway, guys, once again, happy Father's Day to everyone. Happy Father's Day to you all. Happy Father's Day, Dad. Love you. And thank you for tuning in on this Father's Day. And of course, we'll see you back here next week. Same time, same place, because if it's Sunday.
It's the UpSet
Day
podcast.
after Saturday.
I really have to work on this because I
I
need
was
a little
gonna
bit more
say-
energy.
No, it just occurred to me.
I'm still new here.
Occurred to me, Tasha, that right behind you, you need to adjust your graphics because it says "Happy Fat."
Happy fat.
Yeah.
Fat.
Happy
I know. I was
fat.
like rotating.
Fathers.
Fate. Now that's
Happy
fate.
Father's Day, everybody.
Fate. Happy fate. There you go.
All right. See you guys. Take
know.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.